Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast number 111. Guys, today it is the beginning of October, and today we're going to be discussing how do we make the month of October just a little bit better than the month of September. With me, as always, is my partner in podcasting, Miss Susan Vincent. Susan, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I am great. My school is on fall break as you guys out there are listening to this when it drops. So we are enjoying a couple days off to rest, relax, and refresh and coming back for this new month of October. So, maybe some of those things we talk about tonight as we refresh ourselves, we can certainly go in there and make this a better month than September.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about this. I got to get me one of those fall breaks. Of course, my school district is not in a fall break. We are moving forward with everything, but it is important right now as we get into that month of October to sit back, relax, and as you said, reflect a little bit. And Susan, you know the best place to reflect on everything that's happening to you as a tech coach? It's the TeacherCast Tech Coaches Network, of course. Every single Wednesday, we hold our roundtable meetings, and we also have a fantastic free membership site that you guys can go over to teachercast.net/TCN form. All the links are going to be on our show notes. We would love to have you guys be a part of a couple amazing things that have happened really over the last few months, right? We did an entire online course for tech coaches. We did an entire virtual conference, all for tech coaches. We do our roundtables. And of course, every single day, there's dozens of tech coaches that are on that website, all checking out the great stuff, helping each other, supporting each other. And you can find out more information. Sign up for free over at teachercast.net/TCN form for our application form. That's teachercast.net/TCN form. Check out that group today. You can, of course, be a part of this and share it with all of your friends. We would love to have you guys be a part of our TeacherCast Tech Coaches Network. And I got to say, Susan, this past week on our roundtable, we had a really nice discussion just about really where we are, where we're going. How to keep ourselves motivated, right? Let's be honest. September, August, like the beginning of the year, was awesome. I think it was amazing. Not going to lie. Some parts were better than others, though. How do you feel that the first couple of weeks went for you?
The first couple of weeks, which for us was back in August, mid-August, and, they were chaotic. There were, again, good parts, but there were some parts that we had to tweak as we've gone along, and we've learned to tweak that. And as I've mentioned before, we've gotten in a groove, but there are definitely some things to reflect on. My staff and we participated in professional development this past week, right before we started these days off. So what a great time as a gap in teaching. Gives them a couple days of rest, collaborating with each other. We had some virtual sessions that they had to attend this past Thursday, and then they're working together in teams and departments on Friday to reflect upon that and see how to move forward as we come back from fall break. So we're able to think and reflect and then move forward.
That reflection piece is interesting. I've been reflecting myself about all that was. Of course, if you guys have been listening to the show, I took on a new position. I'm still a teacher on record, but I'm more in a district level leadership position. I'm now working with 26, 27 building level tech coaches helping to lead. And right now we're getting ready to essentially launch me into all the different buildings to work with principals. We're building a new website. There's so many great things that are going on. But I'm reflecting on all of this and saying, okay, what just happened, right? We took what we considered to be improbable, what many decided to say was impossible, and now it is the normal, right? Kids are coming in. masks, scanning forms, all that stuff. Like our paper scanning forms have now transformed into an app where the kids just come in and here's my app. I'm healthy, I'm safe, I'm etc. Teachers have gone from being one teacher per classroom to now they're rotating around in many of our buildings, which is a positive, which means that they're learning how to teach similar or different. I'm not sure what the right words are there, in a variety of teaching spaces, using a variety of different tools, right? Like it's easy to kind of find your cave and teach in it. But now we're helping out our teachers learn to teach in 4 or 5 classrooms a day.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about in the past, teachers get themselves into these silos a lot of the times in their own classroom. So in some ways, the mobility that they're being forced to take has gotten them out of that silo environment and out and about.
So let's take a look at the future here, right? When we're looking at helping out our teachers, when we're looking at helping out our tech coaches, it really is taking a look at where we've been and where do we want to go? How do we take that first step? And I believe that first step is to improve communication. In my district, we are working on implementing Microsoft Teams. It's one of my projects, is to kind of bring this brand new communication platform into the district. And I think so far we are extremely successful in this. Our tech coaches are on a team. Our buildings now have teams. I'm seeing buildings start to use Teams meetings for communication. And I think trying to make teachers closer to each other, reach out for help, know that there's channels. I think it comes down to like starting with the basics of communication. What do you need? How can I help you? And from a coach's point of view, how can I help you faster? And how can I help you in a way that I might not have been able to? I mean, when we say the word coaching, yes, I still believe in going into a classroom, working with a teacher, et cetera, but that's not reality anymore.
Exactly.
You don't always have the ability to go into 40 classrooms in an entire. I don't want to go into 40 classrooms. You're cross-contaminating things. But the idea of coaching being, hey, if you need me, I'm on a chat box in Teams. If you have a couple minutes, just video chat with me. I'm right there. I might be down the hallway, but I'm right there. I might be in a different building, but I'm right there with you. And I know for me, like the whole concept of Teams has completely made me closer to not only my coaches, but teachers in my former building. And really, I've made so many close friends now within the district just by sitting in front of the computer and reaching out to people and having those conversations.
Yeah,
what do you think about communication?
That communication piece has actually become a little bit better for me. I mean, I had decent communication before as a tech coach to my teachers, as did my coworker tech coach. But since March, when we had to go out on remote learning, and now that we even evolved back into face-to-face learning, that Zoom video chat piece or that just quick Google Hangout chat that they use to contact us, they're more comfortable with that now. And they're more apt to contact me now than before, when they had no idea what Zoom was or a Google Hangout chat was. And they were waiting to email me when they thought about it at the end of the day and waiting for me to reply. So we're actually having better and quicker communication with all of the pandemic stuff going on.
When we have good communication, then we can start to move forward. And when I'm looking at moving forward, I'm looking at transforming the way lessons are. Exactly. And I'm starting that right now with the tech coaches, right? Do you know about SAMR? Do you understand that the S in SAMR stands for substitution? I think right now a lot of our teachers, maybe a lot of your teachers, are in that substitution phase, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how do we take a physical lesson and how do we just digitize it? How do we put it in a spot where we can just be ourselves, do what comes natural, do maybe what we've been doing for the last couple of years, but how do we just, I don't know if this is fair to say, how do we just get through this, right? Like we have a new environment, a new situation, I got to get to tomorrow. And so figuring out how to take those physical pieces of paper and turn them digital, taking those physical lessons, those lab things, whatever you're doing, and digitifying them, it is the first step, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as we've gotten through this first month or month and a half of school, and, those of you out there who do have a break or you're just reevaluating as we enter into the new month, that same remodel is huge. Yeah, you've probably been substituting for these few weeks, like Jeff said, and getting by. Now let's reflect as tech coaches, how do we encourage our teachers to get to that next level? Instead of just that digital worksheet, what can we do to get the kids using those 4 C's and creating things themselves?
So here's the question for you. And this is something I've been thinking about. In order to get to that next level, you need to define where you are and you need to define where that next level is. But we don't have time for that. Right? Because we're constantly planning for 2 things. We're constantly planning for tomorrow, and we're constantly planning for, well, what happens if tomorrow I'm home? Yeah. And I know that's on the back of the mind of everybody. So, we could do an entire show about this, and I'm sure that we will at some point. But how do you plan to move forward when we're still trying to put the Band-Aid on today? We're still trying to put the Band-Aid on. Okay, what does tomorrow look like? What does chapter 5 look like that we're going to get to in the middle of November? Because, we all have PD days coming up in the next couple weeks. We all have, you're on a break. We have this time for teachers to kind of step back. But to really take that next step, that's a big, process for everybody, isn't it?
It very much is. And it just takes a lot of thinking, and we keep going back to reflecting, but at some point you have to sit down and just really evaluate, what do I need to do to move forward? So much on our plate. I mean, like you referred to a while ago, we have kids face to face, and we're planning for tomorrow and maybe being home or whatever, but then you have the kids who already are at home and you're trying to teach them too. So, that's the $1 million question, I think, with all things in life, not just being educators. It's, how do I move forward with my life in general? And it's just reflecting and, figuring out what's important. And that's where you need to bring your kids as a tech coach, encouraging those teachers, bringing the kids into that process. Don't feel like as a teacher or a tech coach that you have to do it all and you have to plan it all. Let the kids loose. Give them the topic. Just turn them loose and just see what they're capable of. They a lot of times will surprise you, even the little ones.
In looking at all this, I have a couple things in mind here. Changing the culture is a topic. Setting new guidelines. Right? Guidelines for tech coaches, guidelines for teachers. I don't think it's right for a principal to come in and say, your lessons must have this or must look like this or must include that. I can see on an average year, but yes, this is far from that. So what is the difference in your mind between trying to change a culture, trying to create a culture, trying to set expectations? I mean, if you look at the S, A, M, and R, you have substitution, augmentation, modulation, and redefinition, right? Or modification, I should say.
Modification.
When we're looking at all of those things, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this, right? You want to change the culture, but you can't just do one big PD and say, here's the next step. Is that something that you can do? Or do you just do it with, if you've got a teacher that's moving faster, you just push that teacher in that direction, and then you push another teacher in that direction, and then you turn around and look at yourself and go, oh, I now have 2 teachers, and you start to build on that.
Yeah, and then they start building with their peers and getting excited, and that excitement spreads. I mean, yes, that PD is good, awareness PD, go for it, but to really get them to get in there and deep dive into making it happen in their classrooms, that's where you have to do that coaching cycle. Get them excited. Then they're getting their peers down the hall excited.
Can you do a coaching cycle through email? Can you do a coaching cycle through a Teams chat box?
Absolutely. It's discussion. I mean, whether it's verbal out loud discussion or, chat box discussion, it can happen. Discussion can happen in any format. It might take a little longer, but it can happen.
That's an interesting question out there. If you guys have any ideas on that, please let us know. You can find us on Twitter at Ask the Tech Coach. And of course, if you're in our Tech Coaches Network, leave us a message. We would love to hear from you guys in our Tech Coaches Network website. Of course, you can go over to teachercast.net/TCN form and sign up today. And we would be happy to have you join our Tech Coach Network completely free. And of course, we would love to have you guys every single Wednesday night joining us. Did you know, Susan, this week we had 5 new tech coaches come to our meetings for the first time. Absolutely amazing.
That is amazing.
One of our tech coaches is actually from Delaware. She is not only a tech coach, she's like the director of technology, and she works for an independent school who, I don't know all the details, has some connection to like ROTC or something. Fantastic story that we had all in there about student safety, about students being able to search for certain things. Obviously, if your students are military themed, I don't want to say the wrong words here, they're going to be searching for things that other students might not, that might trip some filters, where in other schools it might not.
That is
amazing conversations that we have on these Wednesday night calls.
Those are amazing stories. And, you guys have those stories, join us on those calls, and, then come join us here on the show and tell some of these stories.
We would love to have you guys. We are here every single Monday. It is Ask the Tech Coach. So getting back to a little bit here about this whole culture change, it's not just about the teachers. One of the things that I'm going to be working on over the next few weeks is reaching out to those buildings. I am good friends with some of the administrators. I am new to some of the administrators, and I am just a name on an email to other administrators. So in looking at changing culture of teachers, in looking at changing culture of tech coaches, it does start at the top. How do you feel about working with administrators? I mean, I know you work with your own building. I know you work with other districts. What tips do you have, or what do you think when you walk into an administrator's office for the first time and you kind of have the task from your boss of, you got to help change some things?
Yeah, I think it's so very important to ask them about, again, back to culture, ask them about the culture of their school, where their teachers are, and be interested in what they have to tell you about their teachers. And then at that point, don't just go in there and start offering your vast wide array of technology knowledge. Oh, you all need to be using Flipgrid. You all need to be using Google. You need to be doing this, this, and this. Get to know them from that administrator standpoint. Just like we talk about going into that teacher's classroom and building a rapport with them, it's important to let that administrator know that you're interested in their building and starting at where they are. And
having those first interactions with teachers is also important. Having those first interactions with your peers is also important. I don't know. I want to look at October here and kind of say, where can we go? And I always want to look ahead and go, how can we use October to set up what November is going to look like, right? Because we all know that October is nice, but there's a lot of sugar at the end of the month. And it leads us right into this hyper time where you have the holidays right in front of us. And teachers don't want you walking in their rooms in the middle of November. On the other hand, there's teachers that would love to just get rid of their kids and have you come in the middle of November, right? So it's all depending on who you're with and how you're doing things and where that culture change is. So let me throw that one at you. If we're looking at October to be better than September, how do we also look at October to be the springboard for November and December, which is, of course, the springboard for the next school year or the next calendar year?
Absolutely. That's the, $1 million thing, with life in general. We just keep working at it, and we keep encouraging our teachers, or other tech coaches that we're working at. We keep encouraging that growth mindset. That's what the constant needs to be, is that growth mindset. You don't want to get stale and just keep doing what you've always done. We want that growth mindset of, how can I be better tomorrow, better than I was today? And, today was bad. It might have been a flop. So, get that good night's sleep, refresh yourself, and go at it again tomorrow.
I know one of the things that we're going to be working on is a way to help teachers immediately. We have a lot of teachers that say, I need this, I need that, I need this. And so one of the things that we're going to be working on is making sure that we have video tutorials for everything, whether it be stuff that we've made up, stuff that maybe Microsoft or Google has made up. we want to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve. And as you said before, the only way to stay ahead of the curve is by listening, is by reaching out, is by talking to people, is by writing things down. I always encourage any tech coach to keep a journal, whether it be a Google Keep, a OneNote, an Evernote, a Google Doc, or whatever it is. Always be reflecting on what's been happening around your building. And, those listening tours could be any part of the day. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? What can you do? How can I help you, kind of things. Absolutely. What do you use? I don't know if we've ever talked about this. How do you take notes? How do you keep track of everything? What does your journal look like?
It's evolved. I've kind of been the last few years kind of still a write it down on a piece of paper with my colored pens type of person. But just in the last several weeks since this school year started, I've started evolving away from that and going on into Google Keep some more. And I've organized my Google Keep into categories for, campus versus type of topic and so on. So I've tried to make myself go digital with my note taking and journal keeping and documenting.
Nice. I'd like to know what you guys are out there doing. If you guys have a preference, please let us know. You can, of course, find us over at Ask the Tech Coach or on Twitter at Ask the Tech Coach. We'd love to hear from you guys and let us know what's going on. And you know what? I think we'll kind of hang things up right here, because I know that right now, I know October is going to be better than September. I know November is going to be better than October. I know as we all settle in, it's just going to get easier for us. There might be some bumps and dents, but I think overall, we're getting less crazy. I think we're getting more focused. I think our students are getting into a groove and understand what's going on. And I think we all understand here as educators, as tech coaches, we're, number one goal is we're all here to support each other. We're all here to help each other. And I've never seen one person this year say no to the question of, can I help you? Or Absolutely. Can you help me with something? Or, hey, can you show me how to do something? Or even if, my favorite, this doesn't work. What are you doing differently so that way I can be better in my classroom? I do love the fact that technology of any kind, especially Teams, has brought us all closer together.
And you know what I love about, how we're evolving into October now, the word new normal is starting to fade away a little bit. It's starting just to get normal again. Yes, it looks different than it did. Kids are in mask. We're in mask. We're having to stand further apart, but it's getting normal again. It's not as new anymore. Teachers are starting to get used to it, and they're excited about using technology and integrating that with their curriculum.
Guys, we're here every single Monday. Every single Monday, we drop our podcast around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. We would love to hear from you guys. And as Susan said already, we would love to have you guys as guests on the show. If you'd like to bring a topic or something you're doing with your tech coaches on the show, please reach out to us over at feedback@teachercast.net. And of course, you can check out all the stuff over at askthetechcoach.com. Sue, you are on break. I am envious. I am jealous. I am going to be texting you at all hours of the morning as I'm driving into work. What are you going to be working on next week? Tell us a little bit about your new website.
My new website, it's not new. Tech Imaginations Not Dead has been there, and it still is. I believe it's actually live. There's just not much there at the moment, but I will be working on that next week and getting some of my blog posts over and updated and getting the background, getting it just to look pretty. Yeah, the content is there. It exists. We just need to pretty it up.
And of course, you can check out all the new stuff over at TeacherCast. Susan, did you know that we recently published 2 articles on how you can do augmented reality in a hybrid classroom?
Yes.
I love the I love the conversation we had. It was a great interview. That's going to be putting out stuff this week on the newsletter, and you're going to be seeing it all over our Twitter feeds. Augmented reality in a hybrid classroom. Who knew? Yes. Who thought about it? But you can check that stuff on over at teachercast.net. And that wraps up episode number 111 of Ask the Tech Coach. On behalf of Susan and everybody here on the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.